Welcome aboard Rocket Ship, the platform with the most relevant content for competitive examinations. As part of our answer writing series for general studies papers of Civil Services Mains examination, we'll take up a question that might be expected in GS paper 2, the mains. Let us start with the question itself. The Indo-Pacific region has turned into an arena of great power rivalries. The Indo-Pacific region has turned into an arena of great power rivalries. Explain. What is India's role in the geopolitics of Indo-Pacific? So the question has two parts. In the first part, we have to explain with examples how the Indo-Pacific has turned into a battleground for great power rivalries. And in the second part, in light of this great power rivalry, what is India's role? So, how do we introduce our answer? As usual, we will define this Indo-Pacific region and also give some of the attributes, some of the characteristics of the Indo-Pacific region, like its geopolitical situation, geo-economic situation, geostrategic situation, and so on. Let us begin. The Indo-Pacific is defined as the region covering the maritime zone between east coast of Africa and Oceania. So it starts from the east coast of Africa and goes to Oceania, that is the Pacific island countries. The region is of major geopolitical interest. We are talking of now of its geopolitical attribute, as both India and China, the two most populous nations, are on its rim. Its geoeconomic significance is accentuated by the fact that a major chunk of international maritime trade takes place through this region. It passes through it. Coming to geostrategic significance of this region, the Indo-Pacific is an area of strategic concern as 5 nuclear weapons possessing states, that is China, India, Pakistan, Israel and North Korea, are situated here. Lately, the region has seen quite some great power rivalry. Coming to great power rivalry, and how we will explain by examples. An ascendant China has sought to assert its claim on many maritime features in East China Sea and South China Sea, as we know from the examples of Senkaku Islands as well as Scarborough Shoal, that is in conflict between, and recently it has been news also, Scarborough Shoal is in conflict between China and Philippines. These features are disputed by some US allies like Japan and Philippines. So there is possibility that US will be sucked into a conflict between China and one of its allies. Russia and USA are vying for influence in this region. They are propping up their proxies like Iran, Syria, etc. In this region, we see that both Russia and USA, two of the great powers, have their interest in exerting their influence in this region, and they are doing it by supporting or propping up their proxies. For an example, Iran and Syria in the case of Russia, and some of the Gulf countries in the case of United States of America. Again, the West Asia crisis, which has recently been in news, and again it also includes conflicts like the Syrian civil war and so on. The West Asia crisis is sought to be exploited by outside actors along with the regional players. We know that some of the regional powers are involved in the West Asia crisis, like Israel, and it is opposed by the Iran and its proxies, Iran and its allies like Hamas and Hezbollah. And similarly, there are two warring parties, the Gulf countries, as against which are arrayed, which are aligned against Iran. And some of this crisis, West Asia crisis, is sought to be exploited by other parties, other actors like the United States of America, Russia, and lately China also. India obviously is in the center of the Indo-Pacific, and India being part of the region has evident role in this region, which can be seen by the adjoining graphic, which depicts some of the areas in which India has its roles in Indo-Pacific. We will take up these roles, these areas one by one. First is as a swing state or balancing power. What is meant here, that India, due to its size and its heft actually, is a swing state. That means that whichever group India decides to side with will have a decisive advantage against the other group. India has its own security interests in this region because India is a part of this region itself. So India has its security interests like in the case of terrorism, international terrorism, that originates in Pakistan. Also piracy and restrictions to maritime trade and so on. India has a role in conflict prevention, conflict resolution, etc. India maintains mostly good relations with most of the parties which are involved in conflict in the Indo-Pacific. So it can have a role in conflict prevention, in conflict resolution also, and as well as in ensuring that the conflict does not escalate to a higher degree, to a much dangerous position. Then India has a role in norm setting. India calls for respect for institutions and also for norms like freedom of navigation and so on. India has its own great power ambitions, which can be seen through India's leading role in the institutions like organizations like IORA, that is Indian Ocean Rim Association, BIMSTEC, and India's policies like Act East policy and so on. Now we will explain these roles in detail. We probably understand it that both the US and Russia have sought to keep India with them, keep India on their side. For an example, Russia has supported India's membership of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Similarly, USA and its allies actually have extended India continuous invite to G7. For the 5th time, India has been invited to G7. India's security interests. India has its own security interests in the Indo-Pacific region. For an example, India has its sphere of influence, that is its neighborhood, where India has exerted substantial geopolitical influence. What is of concern for India here? You probably understand it, that some of the powers which do not have as good relations with India have sought to make inroads into India's sphere of influence. An obvious example is China, which is trying to pry India's allies like Nepal, Bhutan, etc. away from India, and also other parties like Turkey, etc. also have sought to interfere in India's sphere of influence. China's string of pearls is well known. It is a policy to encircle India through military bases and so on. Pakistan, the perennial problem, which is an epicenter of international terrorism, and terrorism that originates from Pakistan. The terrorists who are coming from Pakistan have often attacked India. India has interest in freedom of navigation, which is affected by piracy, etc., which is again raising its head in the West Asia, actually, of the coast of Yemen and so on. In conflict avoidance, mediation, de-escalation and so on. India, as we have seen, that India maintains good relations with almost almost all the parties in this region, so it has obvious say, it is in good standing with these parties, so it can have a role in conflict avoidance, mediation, de-escalation, and after this conflicts, in conflict resolution also. We can give the example of India's relation with both Israel as well as Iran, and India can make them come to a talking table. Norm setting. India believes in adhering to the international norms. It calls for respect for norms and institutional sanctity, etc. It says that international institutions must be honored, they must be respected. We can give the examples of India-Bangladesh Maritime Boundary Agreement, where India decided to India honored ruling of the Permanent Court of Arbitration, PCA. India honored the ruling of PCA even when it favored Bangladesh at the cost of India. In direct contrast, China defied the ruling of PCA when the PCA favored Philippines over China. So India calls for institutional sanctity and respect for norms, and also adheres to these norms. So how do we conclude our answer? We can say that being central to Indo-Pacific, and having its national interest tied with the Indo-Pacific region, we must exercise enlightened self-interest. These are buzzwords nowadays. Enlightened self-interest. What enlightened self-interest means? That we have to keep our self-interest in mind and also ensure that it can be balanced with the, for an example, international norms, and ensuring that the institutions are also honored. Institutions and norms are honored. And adopt multi-alignment. We have evolved from non-alignment to multi-alignment regarding the issues. So this is how we sum up our answer. We meet again for the next lecture in a few days. Meanwhile, we would implore you, we would always suggest you that you do some answer writing practice here. You can do, for an example, do one thing. You can write your own model answers of the questions that are discussed here in the comment section below, and time permitting, we will evaluate some of your answers. That is all for today. We meet again in a few days. We wish you all the best. Thank you.